Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a new 2026 NASCAR season. As we're here for another edition of Hit the Pacecar, a new season, same characters here on Hit the Pacecar, a little different graphics, some updates on some stuff, of course. And if you're listening on Spotify, you're obviously not seeing any of this, but we are live every Tuesday here on X. You may also be watching on YouTube. And like every week here on Hit the Pace Car, I am joined by my co-hosts Cory and Tyler. Tyler, how are we doing today, man?
We're doing damn good right now. My Patriots are still alive. We don't know how, but we're going to go to the damn Super Bowl. And that's all that matters.
Tyler is convinced they're going to go all the way. Some of my hotkeys
There's
are messed up here.
Ghost.
Give me 1 second here. It looks like some of my hotkeys are messing with me here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. That's weird. All right, well, it seems to be working now. But Cory, how are we doing here today?
You had to bring up football, man. Why do you have to bring up football like that?
Eh.
Sitting here, either the Patriots win and my boss wins, or the Seahawks win, which is a Cardinal rival. And right now, the Cardinals are sitting here without a head coach. So, life's terrible when it comes football wise. All I got is NASCAR, so I'm just counting the days. Counting the days. Less than a week. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's not going great football wise for me either. Steelers, of course, got eliminated from the playoffs, and I was like, oh, we're gonna hire another young football coach, bring him in, and just show him how to be a head coach. Maybe we'll have a couple down years and whatever. No, we hired 62-year-old Mike McCarthy. He's a great coach, but not what I wanted at all. He likes Will Howard though, so I'm gonna look at it that way. Maybe he can be the guy that brings Will Howard to being a franchise quarterback. Tyler, I don't know if you already heard the news, but your boy isn't going to the Hall of Fame. He's a sham. Did you hear?
No, what are we talking about here?
Big Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did not get voted into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, we already seen that coming.
That's
You can
crazy.
thank the wife or the girlfriend or whatever the hell her name is. She ruined everything. She's
Apparently,
from hell, ruined everything.
apparently Bill Polian was in there talking a bunch about Spygate and Deflategate and stuff. That's a talk for another day, but that's pretty crazy. And I don't even like the guy, and he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's pretty crazy. But let's get to some NASCAR stuff. We have a lot of NASCAR stuff here to talk about, but we should obviously first go into. We lost a lot of people in this offseason, unfortunately. Greg Biffle, of course, and his family in that Statesville crash. Craig, the two pilots. We lost a lot of people this offseason. Of course, we lost Denny Hamlin's father, Dennis Hamlin, of course, Michael Annett. We lost a bunch of people, so I thought we'd do like 30 seconds moment of silence for everybody we lost from the NASCAR community or NASCAR adjacent this offseason. All right, so thanks for sharing that moment of silence with us for everybody that we lost. And we also send our best wishes to Mary Lou Hamlin. Speedy recovery to Mary Lou, of course, Denny Hamlin's mother. Uh, Severe injuries from burns, I'm assuming, from that house fire. I'm hoping that she heals up very quickly and ends up being fine. Very tough road ahead for sure. All right, let's get to some actual good things to talk about. Starting with, in my opinion, one of the best things to happen in this off season, and that is NASCourt, of course. NASCourt favors the teams. At least it looked like it was going the way of the teams, and then they came up with the deal out of court, and they decided to drop everything and move forward and shake hands, and everybody at least there at that moment seemed very, very happy. Big win for the teams. It could mean a lot for the future of the sport of NASCAR. And I guess I want to get Cory and Tyler's thoughts on this. I guess I'll start with you, Tyler. What are your thoughts on this, NASCourt? This could really do a lot of justice for the teams, because I know all the teams wanted this to happen, whether they were proud enough to use their voices or not.
Oh, this was huge. I mean, it went to show exactly what the teams wanted and how much NASCAR was willing to make all of that happen. I mean, whether they wanted it to happen or not, that's, went to prove that it's not at all what they wanted. But like France said from the beginning, it's going to be a lot of negotiating, and hopefully at the end we come out of this clean. It ended up being exactly what he said it was going to be. I don't think he got what he wanted out of it, but I think it ended up being what they wanted it to be in the end for the teams, and that's what matters. I mean, look how much we've already got 2311 sharing a sponsor with NASCAR, so we're already moving in the right direction. We're already moving in a place that we're supposed to be going, and I got high hopes for all of this.
Yeah, I do as well. I think this is really great for NASCAR. We'll have to see what it does for the future. We don't know how it will affect the future of NASCAR yet. We don't know everything that may have been. We know most. I think we know most things that were agreed upon, but we don't know everything that was agreed upon when it comes to their deal that they made outside of court. That's one of the cons of making the deal outside of court. But we'll have to see how it affects the future, and I think it will have a very big positive impact on the sport. I don't know if we'll necessarily see that this season, but for years to come, I would expect to see it more and more often. Cory, what were your thoughts on NASCourt?
I'm just happy it's over, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
we saw too much. We saw a lot of emotions. We saw a lot of heated debate. We saw a lot of topics that honestly a lot of people were one-sided on. I think a lot of people were very pro 2311, what they were doing, and I think I lean that way. And after everything that happened, all the emotion that came out and how everything went down, it 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 was gonna go that way, and I'm happy they finally settled. And honestly, the whole NASCAR thing, I hope we just move on past it and just take all the positives from it and just remember it as a positive and just forget the negatives that happened, because they moved on, so let's move on and let's just take all the positives out of it and look forward to a new season. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I would agree. Take all the positives out of it. I'm not the type of person that's necessarily going to forget a lot of the stuff, because I am well aware of the France family and their workings. That's just me. I respect a lot of the things that the France family has done. There wouldn't be NASCAR today without the France family, and I'm 100% accepting that. But at the same time, I will remember a lot of this stuff, especially with Jim. I'll remember a lot of the stuff that's gone on through the NASCAR, and it's because it just kind of made a lot of my beliefs already about the France family come to life. A lot of my already kind of thoughts that were about them, I was like, all kind of came to life in that case. And that's one of the reasons why Steve Phelps had to step down. And we'll get to more to Steve Phelps later, but NASCAR fans weren't going to forget what Steve Phelps was saying in those text messages, not just about Richard Childress, but just in general. O'Donnell, of course, he's pretty guilty as well. Just a very dark time for NASCAR. The whole offseason, I'd say, was a very dark time for NASCAR, in the courtroom and out of the courtroom. And the future, but I think all of that is going to make the future even brighter for NASCAR. I think this is a great thing for NASCAR that all that happened. And sometimes it's okay to look behind the curtain. And I think there's a lot of differing opinions on that. Like me and Cory have differing opinions on that. Sparky Superfan has a very similar opinion to Cory on the situation. Sometimes you don't want to take the cat out the bag, you know? It just sometimes that's just how it is sometimes. But let us know your thoughts on NASCourt and what it could potentially mean for the future of the sport of NASCAR. All right, let's get to subject number 2 of the day. And we had an injury in the offseason to one of our premier drivers, I would say, a former champion and driver owner of the sport, Brad Keselowski, the driver of the number 6 for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. Actually got hurt on a ski trip. He slipped on some ice on a family ski trip, ended up having to get some surgery, broke his leg, his femur, I think actually, broke his femur and had to get surgery. But he looks like he's going to make it back for the 500. It looks like right now he seems committed to racing the Daytona 500. If the Clash ends up going on this weekend, and we'll talk more about that later, looks like Corey LaJoie is going to sub in for him in the number 6. But I want to get the Pacecar boys' thoughts on this. Brad Keselowski, similar, I guess, in a way to the Chase Elliott injury. Chase Elliott did it actually in the action of skiing, I think, or was he snowboarding? I forget if he was snowboarding or skiing. But he actually snowboarding. Okay, he actually got injured in the act of snowboarding, and then we have Brad K get injured on a ski trip. Do they just need to stop doing winter sports? Like, how do we figure this out?
You just need to bubble wrap anybody that's involved with NASCAR at this point. I mean, I feel like if you're not strapped into a race car, there's a high chance you're going to get hurt somewhere. It's crazy. I swear, these drivers are always getting messed up doing anything but driving a car.
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. And we see it with the dirt guys, too. So it's not always when they're not driving a car. These dirt guys get hurt bad. I think Bowman's still healing from his back injury. That was a nasty one that he faced. I think it was like, a year and a half ago now at this point. It's unfortunate to see that Brad K got hurt, but it's cool that he's going to try to make it back for the 500. I know how badly he wants to win the Daytona 500. That's like his biggest goal every year, is to win the Daytona 500 and then win at his home track of Michigan. Those are always his biggest goals every single year. He likes to write them down on like a piece of paper before the year starts. He usually makes a post about it. I expect him to probably make a post about it here pretty soon. Cory, what are your thoughts on Brad Keselowski being an X Games superstar?
I'm glad that he's supposed to make it back for the Daytona 500, but man, like you said and like Tyler said, with NASCAR's luck and doing anything ski or snowboard related, might as well just, NASCAR's gonna ban it. No, I'm kidding. I'm not for that. Let the drivers have fun, but man, the luck that this sport has with just snow related incidents is not good. Not good.
Yeah, we got more snow potentially coming this weekend, it looks like, for Bowman Gray. Like I said, we'll talk about that a bit more in a little bit. And yeah, I'm just doing this all in good fun, but yeah, I definitely want the drivers to have fun in the off season, do what they want to do, whether that's snowboarding, skiing, surfing, rollerblading. I don't really care. Do whatever your heart desires. You make all that money. Do what your heart desires. But I'm also not the one that has to answer to the boss when these things happen. Luckily, Brad Keselowski is the boss, so he's good on that front. Luckily, he is the boss. But in a Chase Elliott situation or in a different situation, you got to answer to the boss. It's like, I got hurt. What were you doing? I was having fun. Some bosses are probably going to be okay with it. Some are not. And that's how it is in the real world too, not just the NASCAR world. So we'll have to see what happens with Brad K. I'm assuming he's going to attempt to race the whole 500 miles. I would expect, unless he's feeling some sort of major discomfort. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some sort of substitute driver on standby for the Daytona 500 when he comes back. We know that's not going to be Corey LaJoie because he's actually going to be attempting to race in the Daytona 500. So I guess if he misses the race, he could be the substitute, but they'll probably have another substitute already lined up because of everything that's going on. But we'll have to see what happens with Brad Keselowski and see if it affects him in the Daytona 500. But we don't expect him to be in the car at the Clash this weekend. Maybe he's on top of the pit box. We'll have to see if he shows up this weekend at all. But let me know your thoughts in the comments and in the replies on Brad Keselowski getting injured in the offseason, breaking his femur, and will be missing the Clash, but looking to return for the great American race. All right, let's get on to topic number 3 for the day, and that would be Steve Phelps. Steve Phelps has stepped down as the commissioner in the offseason after everything that happened with NASCourt. It's not a big surprise. I don't think a lot of fans were really going to be, I don't think any of the fans were too fond of him at that point. And to be the commissioner, he's kind of the face at that point. If you're the commissioner, you kind of have to be the face. And if no one likes your face, you probably have to move on. And that's kind of what happened here with Steve Phelps. I think he definitely did some good, and I don't think he hated NASCAR or anything. But saying stuff like that, not just about Richard Childress, but about the sport in general and your drivers and your employees, essentially, I'm not okay with. So I'm all for him stepping down as the commissioner. But now the question is, who takes the job next? And I'll start with Cory on this one. Cory, what are your thoughts on Steve? And also, who do you think should be the next commissioner of the sport, potentially?
With Steve, I think with everything that we found out during the NASCourt cases, that this was bound to happen. It'd almost be unrealistic to not see this happen with
The writing was
all
on
of
the
the
wall.
trauma that spilled. Exactly. And like I said, take the good parts of the case and move on from it. This is one of those ones where you can't overlook what happened during that case and what actually came out and the text messages that were read and the things that were said from a spokesperson of NASCAR, from the face. And I mean, Band-Aid ripped off. Now, time to change and start a new year and start a new path. I don't have anybody in mind that I can think of. Maybe I'm just slipping my head, but I know I'd like to see it be somebody that's been in NASCAR for a while, a team owner, a previous team owner, a previous driver, somebody that can be the spokesperson for teams and drivers. So NASCAR has a person to relay to that can communicate with everybody. Other than that, it's time for a change, and I'm happy it happened. I mean, in a positive way.
Yeah, same as me. And Steve Phelps will land on his feet somewhere. He probably won't be a commissioner somewhere else, I guess. There goes the PGA commissioner job that he apparently almost got. So it's unfortunate that everything had to happen this way, but it's better for the future of the sport. And I definitely have someone in mind, but I kind of want to hear Tyler's answer first, because I feel like if he has somebody, he might name the same person that I'm thinking of. Tyler, what are your thoughts on Steve? I think you can be as raw as you want on this if you want. And who's your pick to be the commish?
The Steve situation's hard, man. I mean, we were heartbroken to find out some of the things he said, but at the same time, the man was fighting hard for those teams. It seemed like he was trying to get the teams what they wanted, and unfortunately for him, he was caught in a rock in a hard place, and he was a snake that was willing to, slither through the rocks and not have to worry about it, no matter what side he landed on. And that's where it kind of got nasty for him. And unfortunately for him, I mean, somebody had to pay for this. Somebody had to be at fault for everything that went down. And he was a really prime figure for his unfortunate choice of words. So it sucks. I don't think NASCAR's really necessarily better because he's gone, but I don't think we're going to struggle because he's leaving. At the end of the day, I think he'll end up fine, like you said, but I don't think he should be a commissioner. I think he's too two-sided to be all that.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfectly said. I agree.
If you ask me who should be our next commissioner, should be the man that actually cares the most, and that's Mark Martin. 100%. I think Mark Martin should be in charge. I think he's got the most sane understanding of everything of NASCAR, of racing, and I don't think he'll do it with emotion. I think he'll do it with fairness. Man never won a championship, and that's never bothered him. He's Mr. Consistent for a reason.
I love it.
That
That was great. I love that one.
it was perfect. That's who I thought you were gonna say. That's why I didn't say my guy. That's who I was gonna say. It was Mark Martin. I think Mark the Kid Martin would be the perfect commissioner. He has his finger on the pulse of the sport, and he keeps up with the times. He might look like an old man, but he keeps up with the times, and he keeps up with what younger people like. So I think he would be perfect.
Van's got an RV with 750 horsepower in it. Like, homeboy is not slowed down.
Not not at all. Not at all. I think he'd. I don't know if you'd even want to do it though. That's my thing. I don't know if you'd want to do it. If he's able to stay in Arkansas a lot of the time, I think he'd be down to do it. But I don't think that's realistic. I think the realistic thing is him moving to North Carolina, back to Charlotte, and I think that's something he's not interested in doing. Is just moving back to Charlotte. So they would have to really try to convince him. They would have to really throw. They would have to back up money trucks to his Arkansas home to get him to do it. I think I look at him kind of like, if any of you pay attention to, either you pay attention to college football even a little bit, with like Nick Saban. Like Nick Saban's like the greatest coach in college football history, and he gets paid so much money to do College Game Day, and he's also just relaxing. He doesn't have to do too much. So he's okay with that. He flies out once a week and boom, he's on College Game Day. And maybe if they could work something out like that for Mark Martin, but being commissioner is way more than just flying out for one day. So he's my pick. Okay, so I'm gonna have two different picks kind of right here. My pick, who I would want to be the commissioner, is Mark Martin, but the realistic choice is Ben Kennedy. I think that's the realistic choice. Would you agree with that, Tyler, or no?
100%. That's the realistic choice. In reality, it's time for Ben to step up and let's see if he can do it. I mean, he's the next heir to it all, so let's see. Let's find out what we're gonna be dealing with. Now's the time. Now or never. Let's just do it.
Yeah, rip the Band-Aid off, because I'd say he's the last heir to the France family at this point. I think there's obviously people that are younger than him in the France family, but like I said, I have not personally been too fond of the last two people we've had in charge from the France family, Jim France, and then Brian. That was Brian France is DWI France, right? That's Brian. I'm not a fan of either of those guys at all. I definitely like some things that because Jim is a racer. Jim knows what's up, but at the same time, I don't think he's done a great job. Big Bill France, he was the best. He was the best. So Ben Kennedy being the commissioner, I think would be a good move. I would, like I said, I think me and Tyler are both in agreement. We would want Mark Martin over Ben Kennedy to be the commissioner, but I just don't see Mark Martin wanting the job. If they offer him, he's gonna say, "Fuck no, I don't want that job. I want to hang out in Arkansas and listen to Gucci." Like he doesn't want to move back to Charlotte. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Cory, what are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, no, I agree with exactly what you guys said. I think Mark Martin would be the dream choice. And then you could start naming some other drivers that you can see that still love the sport, but Mark Martin's the clear choice, especially with what he did getting the chase back. And then I think Ben Kennedy is probably the more realistic, like you said. Like, obviously, it's not a name that's going to pop out and everyone's going to be, oh my God, yeah. But I mean, he's there. And I think, like you said, it's just the most realistic option.
Yeah, I think it would be by far the most realistic option to put Ben Kennedy in that position. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I personally can't think of anybody else that would be worthy of that position. Of course, you could name Mike Helton, but I don't think Mike would want to do it either. So I think those would be the three people that I would really want to do it. Would be either Mike Helton, pretty much getting back into his same position, very similar position, I would say. Obviously, there wasn't a commissioner back then, but in a very similar position that he was back in the day. He was pretty much the commissioner without being the commissioner back then. Mark Martin or Ben Kennedy. I think those would be the 3 premier options. But 2 of those guys, I don't see doing it. So that would leave Ben Kennedy. And I can't think of anybody else that's a realistic option. Maybe Steve O'Donnell. Maybe you give him a promotion, but I don't think he's worthy of a promotion. Nothing against Steve O'Donnell. I don't think he's worthy of that promotion, personally. That's me personally. I don't see what he does behind the scenes. Maybe he does a lot more than we think he does. So maybe Steve O'Donnell, I guess, but I can't really see anybody. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, in the replies. Who do you think should be the new commissioner of NASCAR? All right, let's move on to a fresh topic because we had something announced yesterday. I think I don't think any of us were expecting this announcement. I wouldn't have been surprised if it happened for next season, but this season that's literally about to start, we have a schedule change, and that is the Charlotte Roval is now the Charlotte Oval once again. In the playoffs, we have 2 Charlotte Oval races next season. Of course, we have the Coca-Cola 600, and I would assume the Oval once again be named the Bank of America 500, like how it was before the Roval and during the Roval. So maybe back to the Bank of America 500. But this also means no, and I mean no, road courses in the playoffs. The Roval would have been the only one. Last year we had 2 with the Roval and, of course, Watkins Glen, but Watkins Glen readjusted back into the schedule in a weirder place in the schedule. Check out one of our previous videos where we talk about that a little bit more. But the Roval's out, and I'm on the fence about this, but I want to get the Pacecar boys' thoughts on this. I'll start with this one with Cory. Cory, what are your thoughts on the Roval no longer being part of the schedule and being replaced with the Oval in the playoffs?
I'm going to focus on the positive. Racing at the Charlotte Oval is great. It's gotten better over the years. It is awesome. The best track. It's one of the best tracks to watch with this version of the car. So getting a second race at that track is awesome. It's better than the Roval by a mile visually, and honestly, the racing is just better. Especially with SVG dominating. If we get somebody that can challenge SVG closer, maybe the Roval will be nicer. But that aside, the Oval just is more entertaining and creates better racing, and they made the right decision doing that. And then the cons of this decision is more, honestly, it's more the fact that there isn't a road course race in the playoffs, because I feel like you should have at least one.
I agree.
Especially with it not being this knockout system, like having a road course race somewhere in the playoffs is almost warranted. Only negative. It's a positive as a whole, as a race fan, and honestly, I feel like most of the competitors feel that way, unless you're a road course racer. But yeah, I mean, I just hope the one thing they do in the future, obviously, it's probably not going to be this year, but next year, is add a road course to the chase. Other than that, this is a great decision.
Fit perfectly into the chase. Road America. Yeah, I'm going to keep on doing that this year. Road America would be perfect. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on the Roval being gone and the Oval being back in the playoffs?
I mean, it's obviously clear right now that NASCAR is listening. Everything we've been yelling about, they are listening hardcore and they want to fix it. And I'm down for it. The only person that I feel just slightly like, that kind of sucks, because it probably was part of his plan, was definitely SVG. I mean, we already know he's going to he's going to get a couple of wins. So he's already going to be checking for a championship on that. Like, if on a list of 5, you can put him up there just because of road courses, right? But you take one of those out, and that starts getting really interesting for him. I think we see him win on an oval this year, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But still, man, that man's not happy about that.
And Tyler gave a little bit of a tease to his bold predictions, which we will be doing some bold predictions a little bit next week and going through what happened with the chase. We have the chase back and a couple of the rule changes. We'll talk more about that stuff next week. But the Roval, I'm very mixed. I'm very mixed about it. I gave my thoughts about this last year when this came up last year because Junior had everybody up in arms about it. Because when Dale Jr. says something, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!" Everybody like pays attention. But I'm very mixed on the situation. I'd say with the Roval, I do agree the oval is better racing. The oval produces better racing, potentially the best racing in this generation of car happens at the Charlotte Oval in the Coca-Cola 600. But that is one of the reasons why I only want it to be one race. The Coca-Cola 600 is a crown jewel event, and I want it to be a very special event. You only go to the Charlotte Oval once a year, and it's the Coca-Cola 600. That race means more. That's just the way I look at it. So that's why I was overall okay with there being a Roval compared to the Oval in the playoffs. That's why I was overall okay with that. But I do understand the other side of the other side of the coin as well, because the racing is a lot better at the Charlotte Oval compared to the Charlotte Roval. And then another point on the other side was, like Cory was saying, you removing the Roval off of the playoff schedule and replacing it with the Oval, there's no longer any road courses in the 10 race chase. There's not a single road course in the 10 race chase. And I think some would argue that's the correct way to do it because NASCAR is not known for road courses. It used to be only 2 road courses a year or 3 road courses a year back when they had Riverside and a couple other places as well. And NASCAR wasn't known at all for road course racing. A lot of drivers and teams wouldn't even care about the road course race. That's why you had road course ringers. Then you had a couple of great Cup Series drivers that were just fantastic at road courses. So some would argue, like I said, Roval shouldn't be there. But if we want the most well-rounded champion, we should have a road course in there. As long as we're having multiple road courses on the schedule. I'm not here saying throw a dirt race in there. I'm saying throw a road course in there. And that's why this comes full circle. Road America needs to be on the schedule. I will beat this drum
Yep.
all day, every day for the rest of my life. Road America should be on the schedule. I say rest of my life because I don't think it'll ever be back on the schedule again. I don't think it's ever coming back. It would have came back by now, I think. I'm depressed now. But let me know your thoughts in the What's up, Cory?
One of the things you mentioned that I just that saying that road courses shouldn't be in the playoff. Not, and this isn't your point. You're saying some people would argue this point.
Yes.
But in the playoffs, because that's not what NASCAR was built off of. But like, if you're trying to grow as a sport and grow more fans and all that stuff, like, yes, you stay dedicated to the hardcore fans. And that's why they brought back the chase and got rid of the gimmicky playoffs that they've had the past few years. It's based off consistency. If the champion is not going to be eliminated just because there's one single road course race. And if they are, then they really need to get better at road courses. That's all that's going to prove. So, no. I that's the big negative of the Roval being out, is we need one in the playoffs or in the chase. Like, I mean, it's overall a positive, but a little negative that can be adjusted next year.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I really think there should be a road course in the playoffs, and it should be Road America. That's the only option. There's no other option. Nothing. There's nothing. It's Road America. But there should be some sort of road course in the playoffs somewhere. That's my opinion as well. And I don't think it should be like a street course either. I think it should be an actual road course. Not anything gimmicky. Don't put anything gimmicky in the playoffs. You already have Talladega. That's it. No more gimmicks in the playoffs. You have Talladega in there. And I'm not saying, well, Talladega in the playoffs it's kind of a gimmick, but when you have a super speedway in the playoffs, in my opinion, it kind of feels like a gimmick, or like, in a way, a huge obstacle, an unnecessary obstacle. I think that would be the best way to put it. An unnecessary obstacle is something like Talladega in the playoffs. And I don't want a street course in the playoffs because that's just an unnecessary obstacle. So it has to be a proper road course. So that's what I would say. But let me know your thoughts in the comments and in the replies. What do you think about the ROVAL being out and the oval being in at Charlotte Motor Speedway? Speedway Motorsports Incorporated and NASCAR pulled the trigger and shifted the schedule. All right, let's move on. Before we move on to the Clash, let's move on to silly season, as we did have some stuff happen in silly season. A very quiet silly season for the Cup Series, surprisingly. I'm going to read through some of these changes that we had here, and then we'll go over to Cory and Tyler and see what their thoughts are about some of these moves. In the Cup Series, Rick Ware and Haas move over to Ford. Of course, Justin Haley is out in the number 7 for Spire. Suarez is in. Suarez is into the number 7, but now you have Zilich taking over his ride. The number 99 at Trackhouse is now the number 88 at Trackhouse, and Shane Van Gisbergen has shifted his number from 88 to 97. So those are the big moves in the Cup Series. A very quiet, silly season, I'd say, for the Cup Series. Then we moved on to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. It's no longer the Xfinity Series. It's the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series now. And Haas, across the board, are moving from Ford over to Chevrolet. Junior Motorsports, Carson Quaffle in the number 1 is now splitting time with Zilich. Quaffle is going to cover up the rest of his races in other places. But I just thought that was pretty interesting. Corey Day now going full-time for Hendrick Motorsports in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Brent Cruz is 17 years old, so he'll miss, I think, 2 races. I think he'll miss both Atlanta and Daytona, but then he'll be able to race the remainder of the season once he turns 18, driving full-time in the number 19. Harrison Burton's back with Toyota over at Sam Hunt. And this, and I know both of them are probably going to say something about it. This right here is a complete crime. The number 48 at Big Machine Racing, Nick Sanchez is out. Patrick Staropoli is in. And Staropoli, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but I've seen him do road course racing. He's a decent road course racer, but he definitely shouldn't be a full-timer in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. The number 88 of Junior Motorsports is pretty much an all-star car with Raja Karuth. You have all 4 Hendrick Cup drivers racing in the car part-time, and then you have Raja Karuth racing a bunch of races, then finishing out the remainder of his schedule with Jordan Anderson racing in the number 32. And then Viking Motorsports, fresh off of an alliance now with Richard Childress Racing. So this could be a very entertaining team. This could be a very surprising team in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series with 2 very young, talented drivers that I think all of us believe in quite a bit. We've seen them do some stuff, and that would be Anthony Alfredo driving the number 96, aka Fast Pasta, and then driving the number 99 is Mr. Crocker himself, Parker Retzloff, in the number 99. And then we go on to the Craftsman Truck Series, where there's some interesting things going on here as well. Very recent, within the last week actually, Tony Breidinger is no longer racing the number 5 for Tricon Garage. She's now with Chevrolet, driving the number 27 part-time. I'm not sure what happened there. There hasn't been any rumors or any talks on why that happened. So my personal prediction on why this happened is that Corey Heim still does not have a full-time ride, and they already agreed to put Honeycutt in the 11 because Corey Heim thinking he was on the way out, potentially to Legacy Motor Club. So I think that Tricon let Tony Breidinger go, and then Tony Breidinger probably severed her contract with Toyota and moved over to Chevrolet, and then this number 5 truck will now be driven by Corey Heim full-time, in my opinion. We don't know what's going to happen. There isn't any rumors pertaining to that. That's just me putting a tinfoil hat on and saying what I think is about to happen. And then we have a new race team in the Truck Series, as we have Colleague Racing and Ram join the Truck Series. We have a new manufacturer, a new race team, Colleague and Ram together. We have a couple of part-time cars with the number 14 and the number 25 with Colleague Racing, but then we have some full-time cars as well in the number 10, 11, and 12. The number 10 will be driven by Daniel Dye full time. I think he's improved over the last couple of years. Interested to see what he can do. Then the number 11 is actually Tricon Garage. That's my mistake. I accidentally said that one. The number 11, Tricon Garage. Corey Heim, like I said, is out. Honeycutt is in. The number 12, Brendan Queen, Butterbean, is going full time. I'm very curious on how he's going to do. I think Butterbean is a very talented race car driver. I'm very interested to see what he could do at the next level. And then we look over at the number 13 of ThorSport, and ThorSport is doing some weird things. It's musical chairs over there. Pretty much everybody shifted rides. You have Jake Garcia going from the 13 over to the 98. You have Ty Majeski going from the 98 to the 88. Very interesting stuff. Matt Crafton, of course, retired from full-time racing from that number 88 machine. And then we'll look over at McAnally and their two rides. The number 81 of McAnally Hilgeman Racing. Connor Mozak is out. And then Chris Wright, the official driver of the Hit the Pacecar podcast, Chris Wright is in. And then the driver of the number 91 for McAnally is no longer Jack Wood. It will be Christian Eckes returning to McAnally, driving the number 91 after Colleague Racing had shut down their O'Reilly Auto Parts team. All right, so that was a lot to go through. A lot of stuff happening in the silly season for O'Reilly and the Craftsman Truck Series. But the Cup Series, like I said, fairly quiet in the Cup Series for the silly season, but maybe the next silly season for the Cup Series can get crazy. Maybe Kyle Busch will be on the move. That's always the rumor every year, I feel like, at this point. But I'm gonna get my thoughts from the Pacecar boys, starting with Tyler. Tyler, what are a couple of these silly season moves that jump out at you? Is there anything noteworthy, and what are your thoughts on maybe some of these moves?
Big noteworthy moves. I mean, you have SVG finally in a number that he feels comfortable in, which people might think is weird to say, but like that's actually something that matters to these
Chase
guys.
Elliott.
These numbers are a big part of, yeah, Chase Elliott. It's a big part of these guys' lives. I mean, once they're comfortable in what they drive, that's what matters. And if that's a number on their door, I mean, hell, let's go a little faster. I think the most concerning thing would be Heim time. I mean, I don't care if the clock strikes 11. I don't care if the clock strikes 5. I don't care if the clock strikes 2. It just needs to be Heim time somewhere, because that's stupid. Like, that is the dumbest shit any of us have ever seen in our lives.
Yep.
And we all would like to see him back in a car. Like, this is insane watching that. Like, that is 100% the worst thing we've ever seen. But other than that, I mean, everything else is kind of predictable in a way. Definitely some weird things with just drivers switching rides within the team. I don't understand that. I mean, numbers, again, mean something.
It's probably sponsors.
Whether you're talking about sponsors, merch, all of that stuff. I mean, that's the whole reason why 90% of us do this, is because we like collecting a certain car with a certain number with a certain sponsor on it. So let's be real.
Yeah, and I feel very similar about the Corey Heim situation and also the Nick Sanchez situation. I think those two drivers are just extremely talented and deserve to probably both be in the Cup Series. Sanchez obviously wasn't in a top tier ride. He had RCR help, but you could definitely see that he was getting the most out of the equipment. When they made that switch from Kligerman to Sanchez, I was a little bit worried. I was like, Kligerman did so well. Why are we making the switch? And then Sanchez came in, and I was like, oh, that's why we made the switch. Nick Sanchez is a hell of a driver. He's doing great in that number 48. But Corey Heim, that's a generational talent potentially that's getting passed over. It's insane what's going on with Heim time. Luckily, Heim time will be at least attempting to race the Daytona 500 in the number 67 for 23XI Racing. And from what I've heard, he's going to have a part-time effort over there, potentially 5 to 10 races, something like that. I think it was 10 races, but I don't quite believe that. Could be less than that. But other than that, we don't know what Corey Heim is doing. Corey Heim, from all we know, doesn't have a ride. Doesn't have a ride for the season, it looks like. That's the reason why I was saying the number 5 stuff with Tricon Garage. Like, why the hell was Tony Breidinger randomly let go right before the season started? It seemed very random. So that's what I think and hope. Corey Heim is going to race the number 5 truck full time, which is a shame because he should move up a division, but he should be at least full time. He needs to keep winning because we all know what happens. We've seen it happen with many drivers before. If you drive part-time in a car and you're not out there every week and you're not winning, that's a problem. So if he races 10 races for 2311 next year and he doesn't win any of those races and doesn't race a single race in any other car for the rest of the year, team owners like Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan and other team owners in the Cup Series potentially will want Corey Heim, but no sponsors will. And that's the thing. That's the thing. Money makes the world go round, especially in NASCAR. Cory, what are your thoughts on a lot of these silly season moves? I assume you have thoughts about Heim time and potentially Nick Sanchez. Is there anything else that's jumping out at you?
I mean, I'll go over the negatives first, and I think you guys all beat the nail in on that one, is that Corey Heim deserves a ride. Like, how do you go from dominating, being a champion, and then not having a ride? It's kind of crazy, but I'm hoping that gets resolved soon. And then, but to be excited to, there's a lot to be look forward to, like watching like Friday. I can name one for each series. On Friday, watching the truck series with Ram and see how they do and see how they perform and get better as the season goes on. Saturday, I'm a fan of Parker Retzloff. Like to see what they do with that RCR alliance at 99 with not Thorsport, sorry, Viking. And so like to see what Raja Caruth can do in the O'Reilly Part Series. Watch the Hendrick Cars car go around with the full-time Hendrick drivers in it. See how Haas Factory team can do with the going to Chevy again. And then on Sundays for me, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to see how good Connor Zilic performs. Like that's what I'm excited to see.
Oh yeah,
I want to see. I think I mean I don't know if this is a crazy take, but I think he should get a win next year. I would not be surprised if he gets a win next year.
I'd be surprised if
and
he
I
doesn't
want
get
to
two.
see it happen. Because like I don't know, man. I love that kid. That kid's gonna be crazy, and I can't wait to see it happen. So like in a whole, all the silly season stuff, there's two negatives that you pointed out, but there's a lot to be excited for, and I'm excited for next season because of it.
Yeah, silly season was definitely an interesting one, especially when you look at the O'Reilly series and the Craftsman Truck series. But hopefully, because we don't even know anything about Nick Sanchez, at least Corey Heim has a couple of races. I haven't heard anything about Nick Sanchez. I don't know if Nick Sanchez is racing anything, period, next year. So hopefully those two are able to figure something out for next year. But let me know your thoughts in the comments and in the replies. What were your thoughts on some of these silly season moves? They weren't all negative, like Cory was saying. We have Raja Caruth now racing part-time up in the O'Reilly series. I think Viking Motorsports are doing a lot of exciting things with the 96 and the 99 with their new alliance with Richard Childress Racing. So let me know your thoughts about all of that in the comments and in the replies. All right, let's move on to the Clash, because we do have the first racing of the year this weekend, or at least we think this weekend. Might not happen. I'll talk more about that in a second, but let's get to the facts and the schedule of the weekend. Let's look at the weekend track facts. First, the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. 4 25-lap heat races, a 75-lap LCQ, and a 200-lap main event. Bowman Gray Stadium, of course, located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It is a quarter-mile asphalt short track. Opened back in 1939. The first Cup race was in 1958. The first Cup winner there was actually Bob Wellborn back in 1958. No active win leader this week for the Clash because of it being the Clash at Bowman Gray. There's only been one race at Bowman Gray out of all these active drivers, and that was last year's version of the Clash, won by the most popular driver, Chase Elliott. Notable entries for the weekend, no trucks, no O'Reilly, so no notable entries from those series. And then I put late next to Cup if you are watching on YouTube or on X. I did write late next to Cup in the notable entries because we still don't have an official entry list, which it kind of, if you watched Larry's Trackside teaser, I was very upset about this. I don't know why we don't have the entry list out right now. It's another reason why I think the Clash is just kind of a back burner event. Usually the entry list is out on Monday afternoon, and it's Tuesday night at this point, and we still don't have an official entry list for the Clash. So we don't know how many interesting entries we may have. Two that I have just on the top of my head is Burt Myers will once again be racing the modified racer, the Bowman Gray legend. Burt Myers will be racing in the number 50, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, Cory LaJoie will be substituting for Brad Keselowski in the number 6. And then if you look at the weekend weather report powered by the Weather Channel on the bottom of your screen, light snow on Saturday. It looks like around 70% chance of precipitation. This is also being recorded on Tuesday night, so that could very well change. And then Sunday and Monday look pretty clear. But one of the main reasons I include Monday is because it's going to be freezing cold. We don't know if we're going to have ice on the track. This could be a very crazy weekend. I've already seen rumors and talks on Twitter about a potential move of the date. It could potentially move to a midweek race like Wednesday or Thursday or something. It could be the Saturday before the Super Bowl that we have the Clash. This is very interesting, weird stuff, and this is one of the reasons why they decide to not do the championship, for example, at a cold climate sort of racetrack. And this is also why they've never done the Clash at a cold climate sort of racetrack before Bowman Gray. And it was something that everybody was worried about last season, but it reared its head this season, that it's going to be a pretty miserable weekend, I'd say, for those fans. Me personally, if I have tickets, I'm still going and I'm putting on a sweater. But some of those fans might not show up. Who knows? It's going to be an interesting weekend for sure. And let's move on to the weekend schedule. On Saturday, we have the Madhouse Classic on Flow Racing. We have Sportsman Division. We have Modified Division at Bowman Gray Stadium. I usually wouldn't include stuff like this in the weekend schedule, but they are racing on the same racetrack that the Cup cars are racing on, so I figured I would include it. The Madhouse Classic on Saturday afternoon at 1:15 p.m. All these times are Eastern, by the way. At 6:10 p.m., we have the start of Clash practice on Fox Sports 1, and then at 8:30 we have the Clash heat races, 4 25-lap heat races on Saturday night, and then on Sunday at 6 p.m. we have the 75-lap LCQ. Some of you may remember that was the most exciting race, I'd say, out of the whole weekend last year. We had Ty Gibbs doing some crazy shit. We had the Dillon brothers about to fight. It was a crazy crazy race last year for the LCQ. And then we have the Cookout Clash at 8 p.m. And both of those races are actually on Fox, which is quite interesting. Now they're as worthy as the Weenie 500 to get on Fox. I'm very proud of that. And let's move on to the tires, because I actually have a interesting graphic that we're gonna do this year, where I call it the Staggered Special Goodyears. The left side tires that we have for this weekend are brand new in 2026, never been used on any track, and Goodyear is hoping for more tire fall off. The right side tires that we're going to be using this weekend at Bowman Gray Stadium were used 7 times last year. They were used for last year's edition of the Clash, both races at Martinsville, the North Wilkesboro All-Star Race, New Hampshire, aka Loudon, Richmond Raceway, and then Phoenix Raceway for the championship. So with the cold temperatures, I could expect this to be a pretty entertaining weekend, I would say, when it comes to the tires. I could expect potentially a lot of tire fall off heading in to this weekend. And let's quickly go over the Clash format, and then we're gonna get Cory and Tyler's thoughts on this. Let's go through the Clash format for the weekend. It's the same Clash format that we had last season. Practice decides the starting lineup for the heat races. I'm personally not a big fan of this component. I'd prefer just flat out qualifying. That's just me. I just want flat out qualifying, but that's how they'll determine the starting lineup. At the second practice session, During the second practice session, they will decide the starting lineups for the heat races. So the fastest in practice will start first in heat race number 1. Second fastest in practice will start first in heat race number 2, and so on and so forth in that pattern. So 4 heat races, 25 laps each. The top 5 from each of those heat races will advance to the 200-lap main event. So that's 20 drivers moving from the heat races to the main event. And then everybody else that didn't advance through those heat races will move on to the 75-lap last chance qualifier. So all those drivers move over there, and the top 2 finishers at the end of that LCQ will move on to the main event. That gives us 22 drivers for the main event, but we do have a 23rd spot, and the 23rd spot will be given to the highest finisher in points from 2025 that didn't already advance. So, for example, and I used this a little bit earlier as well, for example, let's say Kyle Larson is in heat race number 1, and he gets spun from the lead in heat race number 1, and he has to move on to the LCQ. Let's say he's in the lead in the LCQ, and once again, he gets spun from the lead from the LCQ, and he finishes in the very back. Well, since he was the highest in points last year, there could be other drivers as examples, but I'm just using him because he was the champion last year, Kyle Larson. Since he was the highest finisher in points, and he didn't make it through the heat races or the LCQ, Kyle Larson would be the recipient of that provisional. But also something that we can see, and I think we did see this last year from somebody. I forget who we saw this from last year, but for example, what if Kyle Larson totaled his car in that wreck from the LCQ? What if he spun from the lead and totaled his car in the LCQ, and they don't have a backup set up for Kyle Larson? Well, then it would go to the next guy. In standings that was available. Let's say Ryan Blaney wrecks out of the LCQ, and he was the next guy available. Then he gets the provisional. And if he has a totaled car, then he gives it to the next guy, and then the next guy, and the next guy. And that's how that would work. That's how that 23rd spot provisional would work. So it's the same format as last year at Bowman Gray Stadium, except they should have snow tires. Tyler, where are the snow tires?
Aren't we just using the rain tires? Like, I don't understand. We have rain tires. Give it a shot. Like, I don't care. Slide around, drift around. Let's give it a shot. The max they do at Bowman is what, 90? Fine.
Get some snowmobiles out there. But Tyler,
attach a plow to the front of Chase's car. We'll be all right.
Like shit, yeah. Put some plow. That would be fun. That would really intensify the bump and run. The bump and run would be the scoop and run. Just scoop your ass out the way. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on Bowman Gray, and what do you kind of expect from this weekend?
Man, I'm hoping we even get a race. I honestly don't think we're gonna get to race. This ice is not going away. The country is cold right now, and I don't see it going down. I mean, like, not only that, but we've never seen tires run at 16 degrees. Like, that's crazy. Like, I love Bowman, but honestly, they know better. NASCAR knows better. This is why they don't do the championship, like you said, in the snow, because they know better. I mean, this is they're showing to us, hey, we'll give you what you want, and we'll show you why we can't do it, and that's fine. Put it back to in Daytona like we want, like you guys will do. And then next year, we put Bowman back in July or something. I don't know. Put it back where in the middle of summer when it's nice and beautiful there and when it should be.
Yeah, I've said it multiple times. Me personally, the way I would do the Clash is I would have it hop around to these local short tracks, and NASCAR puts a little bit of money into modernizing these local short tracks, because if you improve the local short tracks, that improves your overall fan base. If you improve the local asphalt short tracks, I know the dirt tracks are getting a lot of love, but the asphalt and concrete tracks aren't. So that's what I would want them to do, is travel around the country to premier local short tracks or well-known local short tracks and modernizing them, and then occasionally throw a stadium race in there. I'm okay with that. Throw a stadium race in there every once in a while. I'm okay with that. I just think it's a good way to grow the sport, and I think that's the best way to do the Clash right now. But at the same time, I said it on Larry's Trackside teaser that most people want them to go back to Daytona. And hell, if that's what the fans want, that's what I want. If most fans want to go back to Daytona, and that's what I see. That's what I see on the internet all the time. Everybody's like, let's go back to Daytona. Let's go back to Daytona. And Tyler's right here beating that drum as well. Let's go back to Daytona. That's probably what they should do. If that's what the fans want, that's what they should do. So I say, this is the first time I'm saying this, they should go back to Daytona. Because that's what the fans want. That is what the fans want. Cory, what are your overall thoughts on the Clash? What could we expect potentially this weekend?
I'm just excited for some racing, man. Obviously, I'm going to preach what Tyler said. Obviously, we can just get a race in. Hopefully, we can get it, but signs aren't looking too hot. It's not looking hot at all, to be honest. But it's looking cold as hell. Yeah. But
cold world.
You know, we're just we're just hoping for some racing, man. Like, we're simple people. I just want to see those cars on the track. And that's all I'm rooting for right now. The Clash was fun last year. It was a pretty cool event. I agree with your take. Having it bounce around would be pretty cool. Obviously, if we're running into challenges with Bowman Gray, whatever they do around this week, it has to work temperature-wise.
For
you
sure.
have to find places that are going to be, like, cooperate, you know? So, honestly, that's why Daytona is the easiest, like, track to shut out. I mean, obviously, you have rain and stuff like that comes through, but that's out of the control, you know? So, but Daytona was awesome when it was the Budweiser shootout, so I'm for it, too. I just want some racing a week or two before Daytona. That's all I want. Simple person. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I just want some racing as well. And another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking there, when it comes to the Daytona argument, that would bring back a part of Speed Weeks. We would have a part of Daytona Speed Weeks back, and the teams are always looking to save money. If you decide to go back to Daytona for the Clash, you don't have to transfer equipment back and forth quite as much. You can maybe bring an extra car knowing that you're doing multiple races and maybe leave a trailer there or something like that. Like, they could, I don't know, it's something to think about. It's definitely something for NASCAR to think about, and they probably have thought about it. I would be extremely surprised if we're at Bowman Gray again next season. And I said this last year, I think we all said it last year, that we would be surprised if Bowman Gray was returning next year. And it's back. It's back again this year, so maybe it comes back again next year. But especially after all this cold and a lot of people getting upset about it and stuff, I don't see it going back to Bowman Gray next season. But we'll have to see what happens with that. And we might not get a race this weekend. It might get moved to Wednesday, Thursday night. It might be the day before the Super Bowl. It might be the Super Bowl prelim race, essentially. I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens with the Clash. But let us know your thoughts about the Clash in the replies and in the comments. What do you think the future of the Clash is? I personally think the Clash and potentially the All-Star Race too are both dying right now. And they need a revival in a big way. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and in the replies. All right, before we send you on your way, we have to make our weekly picks. Weekly picks are back this year, and we'll go over more of the weekly picks format and the way the point system is going to work for weekly picks next week on next week's episode. But the way I'll explain this so far, because us three, I didn't make a graphic for it. That's the reason why I'm not going to bring it up. But us three know the new rules for this season. But one of those new rules for this season is crown jewels and special events. You can just pick whoever you want. We're now in an 8 race series. You can't pick the same driver more than once over an 8 race span instead of 6. But the crown jewels now are free pick'ems. So you can pick whoever you want as long as another person before you doesn't already pick that guy. So we're going to make our weekly picks this week. And the way the order is going to work, I finished last in points, so I go first. Tyler finished second to last in points, so he goes second. and then Cory goes last because he picked Shane Van Gisbergen all last year, and he was the champion. But what's it called? So I pick first. I pick first for Bowman Gray Stadium. I already shifted my pick. I was about to say who I was going to pick, but I think I got to pick with my heart this weekend because this guy has had an extremely tough offseason, and he's one of the best short track racers in the history of the sport. And I'm wearing all his gear right now. And give me Dennis the Menace. Give me Denny Hamlin returning to the race car after his very difficult offseason, to say the least. And best well wishes out to the Hamlin family once again. Denny Hamlin, he's my pick to win the clash, the cookout clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. And that will send it over to Tyler for Tyler's pick to win the Bowman Gray Clash. Who is your first pick of the season?
All right, my first pick of the season has a squirrel attached to his face. Give me Mustache Man, Mr. Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney has a mustache on his face, and he is not bald, unlike his teammate, Joey Logano, which should have been a storyline. Why is that not a topic? I don't know. Hair Club left him.
That's not the way.
Joey Logano. It's what the people want to know. People want to hear it. They love Joey Logano. Tyler, you love Joey Logano, right?
He's my best friend in the whole wide world.
All right, bet. I just gotta make sure. But Cory, this leaves Cory, our 2025 and an inaugural Hit the Pacecar weekly picks champion. Cory, I mean Shane Van Gisbergen. What is your pick? Is it Shane?
Dang, dude. You know what sucks is I was like, as long as they don't pick Denny or as long as they don't pick Ryan Blaney, I'm like.
My original pick was going to be Ryan. I was going to pick Ryan, and then I shifted.
You're sitting there like Denny. I'm like, there goes one. And he's like, the squirrel. I'm like, fuck. Like, but yeah. So I'm audibling here. So I'm gonna pick the number that saved me the most last year, number 88, Connor Zilic.
Oh damn! Oh wow! Connor Zilic comes out swinging. Connor Zilic
wasn't SVG, but it was the same number.
Yeah, maybe it's the number. Ooh, maybe the number is good luck. Who knows? But just to go over it one more time, we will have our picks for the Daytona 500, and we can pick whoever we want for the Daytona 500. It also being a crown jewel. But the next week in Atlanta, we'll begin that 8-pick series. But just to go over our picks one more time, I find it hilarious that Tyler picked Ryan Blaney because I was going to pick Ryan Blaney, and then I was like, you know what? I audibled last second and was like, you know what? I got to pick Denny. So that's hilarious. I picked Denny Hamlin. Larry picks Denny Hamlin. Tyler has decided to take Ryan fucking Blaney, RFB, to win at Bowman Gray Stadium. And then Cory takes the young buck, Connor Zilic. The best thing since sliced bread, the new best thing since sliced bread. Connor Zilic to win in essentially his rookie debut. And there was another guy that did that a long time ago. I forget what his name was. Oh yeah, it was Denny Hamlin in the Budweiser Shootout in 2006, who won in his first race of his rookie campaign. Can Connor Zilic do the same? But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who is your pick to win the Busch Clash this weekend? If we even have it this weekend. It could be Thursday night racing. Who knows? But let me know your thoughts in the comments and in the replies. All right. So that will end up doing it for this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. Tyler, is there anything else you got to say to the people before we're on our way?
R.I.P. Biff, man. Be like Biff. Do everything you can to be like the Biff. Biff, man. R.I.P. Biff.
Couldn't agree more. I still haven't watched Cletus's video where he's paying homage to it, and then also the ceremony. I know I'm probably gonna cry when I watch it.
Cheers, man.
So I haven't watched it yet. I'm not ready to watch it yet. And I did the same thing with the Earnhardt documentary last year. It was a great documentary, and I still haven't watched the last episode of the documentary. And then we're also getting a new
I
Earnhardt
just finished
documentary.
that episode a day ago. I just finished that episode a day ago, and tears, tears.
Yeah, I just know I'm gonna cry. That's why I haven't watched it yet. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Even though that was 25 years ago, I'm still not ready. I'm still not ready. But Cory, is there anything you got to say to the people before we head out?
Rest in peace to all the ones NASCAR lost, including the BIFF. You know, pour one out for one of that. Pour one out for everyone. And let's get racing.
Let's get physical, physical. Let's get physical. All right, so the consensus is raise hail, praise Dale, and be like Biff. But we'll see you on next week's edition of Hit the Pace Car. We will be live once again next week. We go live every Tuesday right here on the Pacecar Boys X account. We go live every week on this account on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That will start on after March 3rd. Right now we're doing 7 p.m. Eastern Time is where we're going live. So for the next couple of weeks, it'll be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Then it will shift over to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, check out some of my shows that are also live on X on my Twitter channel, Trackside Larry. And then if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, subscribe. This will be on YouTube and Spotify. If you're watching live on X, it'll always be available later on Spotify or YouTube as well. So we'll see you next week on next week's edition of Hit the Pace Car. For Cory and Tyler, I'm Trackside Larry saying peace. Hopefully we get some racing this weekend and be like Biff.